Hello and welcome to Vibe and Talks. This time the topic is how do you take a startup and turning it into a business? And our guest today is none other than Murshid. Murshid, I'll let you introduce yourself, but before you do that, I'd like to say that you are a serial entrepreneur. You have been very successful in that journey, and also you're an investor, and you've been successful in that journey as well. Please tell us a bit about you and your journey, and then we can jump into the topic.
Yeah, so I started as an entrepreneur about 15 years ago and have been building companies since. And I think about 5 years ago, I started investing in various companies. So yeah, that's very short my own background.
Great. And you have been through all the journey from starting it to exit and different companies. So, I mean, you are the perfect person to ask you this question. So let's jump straight into the topic. So, Murshid, how do you take a startup and make it a business?
That's a very interesting question. I think it really depends on which industry you are in. It depends on what you're selling. It depends on many things. But if we are to kind of go to my domain of knowledge, it would be developing technology and proving something novel and new, and then commercializing technology in any market. And how do you do that? That's quite complex. There's a lot of pitfalls, but there is a way of doing it, avoiding the biggest pitfalls as well. So let's take, for example, maybe AI company. So today, you can basically be a 1, 2, 3 man team or a woman, and you can build a product and launch it in the market space in a matter of months with not that much necessary capital. This means that the barriers for entry to build products and commercialize them are quite low. When I started my first technology company, which was Huddlestock, we used 2 years in building a product.
Wow.
And then we were building, we raised money, and then we launched it. Today, I think you can build the same product in, I would say, 4, 5, 6 months. So today you can do it super fast and to a fraction of the cost. So today it's all about distribution, marketing, and how can you get out there. So once you build a product and you see that people want to use it, you need to sell it. And there's many different ways of selling it, right? But you can either pick up the phone, you can sell to your network, you can sell to people that you know, that knows others, etc. That's the fastest way to get starting. Once you get some traction, you can raise capital, and then you can invest into different other marketing efforts. But the most important thing is to get selling once you have the product. So I would say start getting selling as soon as possible. There's an entrepreneur here in Norway. He gave me a very good tip. He's a serial entrepreneur, an older guy. And I remember I talked to him on the phone, and he said to me, the first person you should hire in a company is the sales guy. And that's the last person that should also be in the company, is the sales guy.
Okay.
And this was a very good point for me, because I think in Norway, a lot of people, I think we tend to be much more introverted here. At least me and my team, when we started our first company, we were like isolated in a dark basement, drinking Coca-Cola Light and trying to build a product that others that were kind of nerds would use. And then when we launched this product, nobody really understood, okay, how the heck do we use this thing? Because it's too complicated. So I think instead you should go out there and you should say, okay, we want to build this thing and sell it. And you should get customers that says, okay, I want to use this product when you build it. And when is it ready? So you should sell the product before you have it. And then you should deliver the product in the initial early phases. That's kind of my take to it now, yeah.
Wow, I think you're making a very great point there, because so many startups tend to fall in love with their product or what they're actually building, but they don't actually think of, okay, let's get this product out there as fast as possible. What would you say is kind of the most pitfalls for most of the startups?
I think first, I think there's a lot of, success is very relative.
Yeah.
And I think I failed on a lot of things, especially on the vision of the first company I started. Mm-hmm. The vision was completely different than it eventually became. Mm. And it went on the stock exchange and it was a huge success, but we kind of lost our way. The vision did not continue. It didn't become what we were thinking and dreaming of in the end.
Okay.
And that was a sad thing, but that was also a necessary thing in order for the company to succeed. So I think essentially, this is just my opinion, but there's a reason why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Mm. And that's especially when you're a young entrepreneur, you should learn and listen extremely a lot from people who have maybe done it before and have experience, and be very humble in your approach in understanding things. And I failed at that because when I started my first company, you raise money and you have some early success, and then you think you're the king of the world or you're going to be the next big thing, etc. And your ego gets maybe a little bit inflated, and then you stop listening. And that is a big danger, because if somebody says to you that product will not work because such and such and such, and the person who says that to you is very knowledgeable about the market space, about the products, etc., then you need to work and figure out why the person says what they say, and try to motsi, like you counter them, instead of just putting your blindfolders on and just going ahead without listening. Sometimes that's good to be naive and have the blindfolders on. But I think for founders, you need to know when to do that and when not to do that. And that is very difficult.
Because that's kind of the biggest challenge, because on one hand, you try to pursue something and you have so many voices, people telling you, oh, this is not going to work out. And the typical story you hear a lot is that, you should pursue your dreams, ambition and everything. But you are saying that on the other hand, you need to find the balance between listening to the right people, but at the same time be narrow focus. Is that how I should understand what you just mentioned?
Yes, try to learn as much as possible from the journey, and try to be confident, but not overconfident, or not be led by this supreme ego. So we all have egos, and it's good that you have the ego and that you feel that you achieve things, but you should also be humble enough to understand that I do not know everything about this world, or do anyone else. So one should be open and explorative in trying to figure out what works or what does not work when you build a company. So yeah, it's very tricky, but it's also a lot to do about relationships when you build business. Because I think you need to be able to get along with people and work with very many different people that are very different to you. I think then you can also build something successful, because you need to understand, I think I understand my weaknesses in different contexts, because I have some strengths and I have a lot of weaknesses. So I always try to understand, okay, what's my weakness in this context and why, and how can I work together with people to supplement those weaknesses. And I think that's kind of how I like to navigate things. And there are other people that might have a lot of strengths and less weaknesses, and they might be able to do things more by themselves, for example. But I've always started companies with other people, for example, and built companies that way.
Okay. But Let's say first time, I mean, the first time you kind of took something and became successful, was there any difference between the first time and the second time, because you have jumped through multiple companies? Is there any difference from the first time to the second time to the third time? Because what I'm trying to understand is there kind of a structured approach to making it into a business? Like, is there a way to efficiently do it faster and cheaper?
Yes, absolutely. So I remember when I was very young, and you quickly realize that when you go and speak to girls, you might get a no. And then you can start thinking, are they saying no to me because of this and that and how I look and how I speak, etc.? Or you speak to more of them and you get many no's, but you might get a yes. So instead of, I think a lot of people, they give up once they get the 1 no, 2 no, 3 no's, and they're like, oh, it's because of me, I'm giving up. But then you just need to keep on going till you get that yes. And that's what I learned, because in a very early age, I started as a phone sales guy.
Okay.
So when I was 15 years old, I was selling Rogalands Avis. So I would call to everyone and try to sell this newspaper. And I was really good at it. And I loved the job because I could make money. So I grew up in a rekkehus, typical immigrant background, etc. But if I could pick up the phone and just call to someone and sell something, and I would make more money than, I don't know, the average salesperson, then I would feel like, okay, wow, I'm doing something right. And when I started as a fondsmegler in Aker Brygge, then I was very worried about my name because it's not very typical Norwegian. And I asked my boss, I remember I said to him, like, is my name an issue? Because, and he said, no, nobody really cares about your name because our best sales guy, he's called, and he also had this immigrant background, and he's our best sales guy. And I really hated that job, but I was good at it because I would just fearlessly pick up the phone and call to everyone. And I did that when I started my first company. So that's basically the first company, Norsaco, was basically picking up the phone.
And just calling
CEOs of companies and selling a service. And going there in my parents' old Toyota Yaris and having a meeting with them and convincing them to pay for the services that we were offering. So that was basically it.
What I'm getting from you is that, you need to sell something as fast as possible. Sales is very important. Okay, now we have that in place. Is there any other thing which is important to making a startup into a business?
Absolutely. You need to have sales, but you also need to have credibility.
Okay.
So when I started my first business, I had been in the Middle East. I worked at the Norwegian embassy there. And I was trying to build a consultancy company that would help Norwegian technology companies in the oil and gas sector to the Middle East. And I think I was very lucky because at the time there was an oil boom and the oil price was high and everyone in Stavanger were having a lot of money and they could put money into consultancies to export their products. So I realized, so I had credibility, but I also realized I needed to, I was in my 20s, right? I was 26 years old when I started that company. So I would put on a suit, I would call to some random CEO, I would put on a suit and I would go out to their office and I would sit there. And then I realized if I teamed up with this old white-haired dude and he would just come in the meetings, he would just sit there, he doesn't need to say anything.
Okay. Yeah.
He would just sit there and he would be part of the company. Then you would close the sales faster, right? So the thing is that you also, in addition to kind of having the sales, you need to have the credibility. How do you build the credibility? You obviously, when you build technology companies, you need to have a really good tech product, but you also need to have the nodes around that makes it credible. It can be the board of directors, it can be your own background, it can be your C-level suite, all of these people add credibility. And the more credible people you have on board, the easier it is to build a great company. So, yeah. But, I mean, obviously, these are lessons learned after 15 years.
I mean,
I did a lot of mistakes as well.
But I mean, those lessons are extremely important for anyone who's starting to understand them as early as possible, because you don't want to use that much time to kind of understand them. So I think it's extremely important that you're sharing the knowledge with us. Do you think that there's, let's talk in terms of business development. Do you think that there's a problem, or there's a need to, or is there anything that you think it's important for founders to understand in terms of business development, that they need to tap into a structured approach to how they do things? Or do you think that it's a matter of just, okay, I have an idea, let's do that in terms of that?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a structured process to it.
Yeah.
When I first started my first tech company and you raised, say, 5 million kroners, you are like, okay, should we hire a marketing person? Should we hire a backend? You didn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
Now, if I raise 5 million kroners and I have an idea, I know almost exactly what to do, who to hire, how to put together things, and how to build a company and launch it. And that structured process comes gradually with time. So you gradually learn these things. But I think if you're I always worked a lot. So when I was when I started off, I was, in my mind, always over-deliver. If people ask you, okay, make this box, then you go there, you make 5 boxes. You just over-deliver continuously, and you always keep your word. Because then you build a reputation that you can be trusted, and you will always deliver quality. So I did that in every setting. So when I started the company, I wanted always to be the person that over-delivered in the company. Always be closing more clients, always be working most hours. And it's almost like I didn't care if the others didn't work that much. Because I wanted this company to become a success. And if they were not working and either way they became rich because they were part of the bandwagon, my thinking is that this is a long game, and I'm going to do it again and again and again. And you learn along the journey, and you have the guys who are on board going forward, who have been delivering. So that has been my thinking all the time. I'm not saying that's the right thing, but that's how I kind of have been my philosophy.
Do you feel any fulfillment right now in terms of the fact that you have been able to be successful as an entrepreneur? Do you feel some sort of fulfillment, or do you think that the journey itself was the fulfillment?
I think the most important thing in life is having purpose with what you're doing.
Yeah.
So you feel that, okay, I'm doing something that is useful. But as an entrepreneur, there's always somebody with a bigger boat. There's always somebody that is more successful. And it's literally impossible to be fulfilled or happy if you have that continuous drive. And a part of me wants to have that drive. Part of me wants to be happy and not have it. But I think that having that drive and building companies is part of a purpose in my mind of like everything, existence, why we're here, etc. And I think as an entrepreneur, if you can build something from 0 to 1, you have a purpose. That's your purpose, building things. And if you lose that, then there's not much purpose left, right? So it's not very much about money or material things. Because if you would have all the money in the world, but you wouldn't understand and know how to build companies or have that purpose, then all of that is useless. I mean, you're going to buy a bigger boat, a bigger car, a bigger house. But then again, are you happy with that? Because material things is just, come and go.
It's true because, today there's so many I mean, if you're looking through the social media and everything, I mean, everything is pushed in a way that it's a very materialistic way. Like, you do this and you can own this boat, or you can have these flashy cars, flashy apartments, and so on. So I think it's the purpose aspect. I think that's something which is extremely important, that you are in for the right reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, that was what we had. Thank you so much, Murshid, for sharing.
Thank you.
Your great knowledge, and I'm looking forward to speak to you again next time. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.